There is a dangerous myth that has infected the minds of millions. A belief that motivation must come first. That you must feel like doing something before you do it. That somehow, inspiration is the fuel of success. But let us be honest, how often does inspiration actually show up? Most days, it is nowhere to be found. You sit there, staring at the task ahead, waiting for some magical force to light a fire within you. And while you wait, time slips away. Days pass. Nothing changes. Your goals gather dust while your dreams remain frozen in the land of someday. The truth is brutal, but freeing motivation is not a prerequisite. It is a byproduct. It comes after action, not before. You do not wait to feel like it. You move, even when you feel nothing. Especially when you feel nothing. Because the ability to act without emotional permission is the greatest form of strength you can cultivate. If you only move when you feel like it, you will rarely move at all. This audiobook is your weapon against that lie. It is your blueprint for war, not against the world, but against the weaker version of yourself. The one that sleeps in. The one that scrolls endlessly. The one that says, "I deserve a break," when you have not earned anything. If you stay with me until the end, something inside you will shift. You will begin to see discomfort not as a signal to stop, but as a signal to begin. You will learn how to force yourself into momentum, build discipline like a muscle, and push forward in complete silence while the rest of the world waits for motivation to arrive. And if this message strikes something within you, share it with someone else who needs it. Someone who is stuck. Someone who has waited too long. Because you are not just listening to another audiobook. You are stepping into the kind of mindset that rewires how you think, move, and conquer every single day. Let us begin. There is a version of you that no one sees. It watches silently from the corners of your mind. It knows what you could become. But it also watches you scroll. It watches you delay. It watches you say tomorrow for the 100th time. That version of you is not judging. It is waiting. Waiting for the moment you decide that enough is enough. That the pain of staying the same has finally outweighed the discomfort of change. And when that moment comes not with fireworks, but with a quiet decision, everything shifts. You must kill the question, "Do I feel like it?" That question has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. You feel tired. You feel unmotivated. So what? Feelings are not facts. Feelings are the weather, temporary, unpredictable, and completely irrelevant to your mission. What matters is what you do when you feel nothing. What matters is that you rise anyway. Work anyway. Push anyway. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man who wanted to become a writer. He waited for inspiration to strike. Day after day, he sat with a blank page. Weeks passed. Then months. He read every book on writing. He followed every famous author. But still he did not write. Then one day, an old mentor told him, "You do not wait to write. You write until it flows." Action births clarity. From that day on, he wrote every morning at 5 a.m., no matter what. Most days were terrible. Some were good. But eventually, he wrote a book. Then another. And another. Not because he was gifted, but because he killed the idea that inspiration was necessary. That man changed his life not by waiting, but by forcing himself to act. You are no different. You may not be trying to write a book. Maybe you are building a business, studying for an exam, rebuilding your body, healing your mind. It does not matter. The principle is the same. You must become a machine that moves without permission. You must develop internal orders that override emotional resistance. You must become the kind of person who does the thing not because it feels good but because it is time. This is where most people fail. They think discipline is a mood, that it requires energy, excitement, or reward. But discipline is not a feeling. It is a system. A ritual. A habit that runs without your input. And that system is built through repetition. By showing up over and over until it becomes part of your identity. Like brushing your teeth. Like locking your door. You do not think about it. You just do it. If you are still waiting for motivation to appear, understand this: you are choosing to be controlled. You are handing over your power to a ghost. A feeling that may never come. And you are calling that normal. But you were not born to wait. You were born to move. To build. To become. Not someday. Today. If you want to change your life, you do not need more motivation. You need a moment. A small act of defiance against the weaker part of you. Set the alarm. Get up the moment it rings. Start the task you have delayed. Do it terribly, but do it anyway. Because doing it poorly is infinitely better than not doing it at all. Perfection is a trap. Momentum is your savior. 8 minutes in, and if this message has ignited even a spark in you, then act on it. Share it with someone who has been stuck in silence. Subscribe for more truths that break chains. Because this is not about information. It is about transformation. You want to force yourself to work hard? Then understand this hard work is not something you feel. It is something you choose. And the more you choose it, the easier it becomes. Not because it gets lighter, but because you get stronger. Let us dig deeper. Chapter 1: Training in Silence. Most people train only when the world is watching. They work when there is applause. They strive when someone notices. But the truly dangerous ones, they train in silence. They rise when no one claps. They build when no one sees. They suffer in the dark so they can dominate in the light. Because the most powerful growth happens in solitude, not when the spotlight is on, but when no one is checking in. That is where discipline is born. That is where strength is forged. Not from attention, but from consistency. Imagine a man who wakes before dawn. No one is up. There are no cameras, no followers, no external reward. Just him, the cold morning air, and his mission. He runs until his lungs burn. He writes until his mind is empty. He builds until the sun rises. And no one sees. No one praises. But he is not doing it for them. He is doing it because he promised himself. That is what makes him unstoppable. He does not need motivation. He does not need validation. He only needs the mirror and the truth that he either kept his word or broke it. Every time you do what you said you would, even when no one is watching, you build integrity. Every time you delay, make excuses, or break your routine, you chip away at your identity. You teach yourself that your word is negotiable, that your dreams are optional, that your future is for sale. But when you keep going, when you keep showing up, even when you do not feel like it, you carve a new standard into your character. You teach yourself that discipline is non-negotiable, that action is mandatory, that your goals are sacred. You want to force yourself to work hard. Then make a rule, one that cannot be broken. I rule that you train daily. I rule that no matter how tired, distracted, or uninspired you feel, you move. You act. You execute. Because once the decision is made, the debate ends. And that silence, that private grind, becomes your edge. There is a secret weapon that most people overlook: boredom. They chase excitement, novelty, dopamine. But the masters? They embrace boredom. They repeat the same process again and again until the mind rebels. Then they do it again. Why? Because greatness is built on monotony. Not chaos. Not hype. Just relentless execution of simple things done consistently well. The bodybuilder lifts the same weights. The artist sketches the same forms. The writer types the same number of words. Boring? Maybe. But effective? Always. Let me ask you, when was the last time you worked deeply without distraction? No phone. No background noise. No reward. Just you, your work, and the uncomfortable silence. That space, that mental discomfort, is where most people quit. But if you stay there long enough, something changes. Your mind stops resisting. Your focus sharpens. Your identity shifts. You stop being someone who tries. You become someone who trains. Someone who builds. Someone who works regardless of emotion. So start training in silence. Make your bed with precision. Write your plans with intention. Execute your tasks like a soldier on a mission. Not for praise. Not for likes. But because this is who you are becoming. The kind of person who forces themselves forward not once, but always. The world does not need more inspired people. It needs more people who show up. Who do what they said they would. Who become dangerous through repetition. Be one of them. Chapter: act before you think. Time, the quiet thief. It does not announce itself. It does not crash through the door. It slips in like a shadow, unnoticed, stealing opportunity 1 second at a time. Most people do not lose because they lack talent. They lose because they pause. Because they hesitate. Because they believe they have time. But here is the harsh reality: you do not. Every second you delay, every moment you overthink, every time you wait for the right mood, you are gambling with your life. The most dangerous words in the English language. I will do it later. Because later becomes never. Later becomes regret. Later becomes the silent graveyard where dreams go to die. You think you need more planning, more research, more certainty. But what you really need is motion. Not a perfect plan. Not a perfect mindset. Just movement. Act before you think. That is not recklessness. That is survival. Because thinking too long creates fear. It amplifies doubt. It builds resistance. But the moment you move even one step, the mind begins to bend. The resistance begins to crumble. And what felt impossible becomes manageable. Consider this: you wake up. The alarm rings. You stare at the ceiling, mind racing. Should you get up? Should you snooze? Should you take one more minute to decide? That tiny gap, that hesitation, is the battlefield. That is where you lose or win. The ones who win do not give that moment oxygen. They move before the mind has a chance to speak. They rise. They step. They act. And in that act, they silence doubt. There is a principle called the 5-second rule. If you do not act on an idea within 5 seconds, the mind will kill it. The window of opportunity closes fast. That is why success belongs to those who move fast, who leap while others debate, who take the risk while others analyze it to death. You do not need to feel ready. You need to move while you still feel afraid. Because readiness is a result, not a requirement. Think about a lion. It does not wait until it feels perfectly hungry to hunt. It does not overanalyze the grass. It sees movement, it pounces. That instinct, that immediacy, that is what you need to train. Because your goals will not wait. Your future will not wait. Your potential is rotting while you hesitate. The ones who win in life have one thing in common: they execute fast. They feel fear, but they act. They feel discomfort, but they push. They do not wait for alignment. They create alignment through motion. Their energy comes after the action, not before. So the next time you think about working out, go. The next time you think about starting that project, begin. Not tomorrow. Not tonight. Now. Before your mind talks you out of it. Before the resistance gets strong. Move first. Think later. And here is the secret: the more you act fast, the more power you build. Your brain starts trusting you. Your identity shifts. You stop being someone who waits. You become someone who moves. Someone who forces themselves through the wall, no matter how high. 8 minutes, and if you are still listening, it means you are serious. Share this message with someone who needs to stop thinking and start moving. Let this be the spark they needed. Because in the end, it is not about how smart you are, or how inspired. It is about how fast you act when it matters most. And it always matters now. Chapter 3: Pressure builds diamonds. Most people run from pressure. They see it as a threat. Something to be avoided, managed, minimized. But the truth is, pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is your forge, your catalyst, your teacher. Without it, you stay soft. You stay average. You stay small. Because greatness only emerges when you are squeezed. When your back is against the wall. When there is no way out but through. Think of the diamond. One of the strongest materials on earth. How is it formed? Not in comfort. Not in ease. It is forged under crushing pressure, buried deep beneath the surface. Time. Heat. Stress. That is what transforms carbon into brilliance. And you are no different. You are raw material, full of potential. But that potential means nothing until it is pressed. Pressed by responsibility. Pressed by failure. Pressed by expectation. Do not avoid pressure, pursue it. Seek the situations that scare you. Say yes before you feel ready. Volunteer for the task no one wants. Put yourself in positions where you must deliver. That is how you grow. That is how you become the kind of person who works hard, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. You want to force yourself to take action? Then stop waiting for ideal conditions. Pressure is the condition. Let the deadline scare you. Let the risk challenge you. Let the discomfort ignite you. Because once you step into that zone, the one where everything feels uncertain, you begin to evolve. People often say, "I perform well under pressure," but they forget pressure does not appear on its own. It must be chosen, created, invited. So if you want to grow, stop choosing comfort. Stop choosing pressure. Create high-stakes moments in your day. Public commitments. Real deadlines. Bold goals. Make it cost you something if you fail. Make it sting. You cannot build strength in theory. You cannot grow resilience in fantasy. You must feel the weight. You must walk into the fire. That is the only way to build grit through exposure. Not once. Not twice. But daily. Let me tell you about a boxer. He trains not just to punch but to get hit. He enters the ring knowing pain is part of the process. And over time, the hits hurt less. Not because they are lighter, but because he is stronger. That is what pressure does. It does not break you. It builds you. If you let it. But here is the danger: if you avoid pressure too long, you become fragile. Emotionally weak. Easily broken. Because you have trained yourself to flinch. To quit. To fold. That is why people panic in crisis, not because they are incapable, but because they have never practiced pressure. They have lived too long in safety. In the shallow end. You want to work hard every day. Then, embrace the deep end. Wake up with stakes. Live like someone is counting on you. Move like time is running out. Push like your dreams are not guaranteed, because they are not. And if this message is pushing something in you, then honor it. Share it with someone who is stuck in the comfort zone. Let it jolt them awake. Because this is not about being motivated. It is about being dangerous in the best possible way. Let pressure shape you. Let it sharpen you. Because in the end, the weight that scares you today may become the reason you are unstoppable tomorrow. Chapter 4: Silence the emotional voice. Inside your mind, there are two voices. One is loud, impulsive, emotional. It whispers every excuse, every comfort, every reason why you should wait. You are tired. You deserve rest. You will start tomorrow. This voice is not evil, it is primitive. It is trying to protect you from discomfort, from effort, from risk. But that protection comes at a cost: your future, your progress, your power. The second voice is quiet. It speaks in truth, not emotion. It says, get up, keep going, do what you said you would. This voice does not beg. It does not plead. It commands. But most people cannot hear it, because the first voice is louder. Because emotion hijacks logic. Because we have trained ourselves to obey our feelings rather than our decisions. You cannot force yourself to work hard if you always consult your emotions first. Because emotions are inconsistent. They fluctuate with sleep, food, mood, weather, feedback. One bad comment, and your whole day is gone. One hard task, and your willpower vanishes. That is why you must build a new rule: action over emotion. Movement before mode. Execution before analysis. You are not your emotions. You are what you do with them. And the more you practice ignoring the emotional voice, the quieter it becomes. The more you listen to the disciplined voice, the silent one that tells you to act anyway, the stronger it gets. Until one day, it becomes your default. Not a whisper, but a roar. There is power in neutrality. In waking up and doing the work whether you feel good or not. In detaching your performance from your emotional state. You are not a slave to moods. You are a machine of action. And machines do not debate. They execute. Think of a firefighter. When the alarm sounds, they do not ask, "Do I feel ready?" They do not check their mindset. They move. Fast. Decisively. Because lives depend on it. Your life may not be on the line, but your potential is. Your goals are. Your future is. So treat every decision like it matters, because it does. One strategy is to label the emotional voice. Give it a name. Notice when it shows up. Speak back to it. Say, "That is not me. That is just the weak voice." Then move. Immediately. Action is the interruption. Action breaks the loop. Another strategy is cold exposure, not just physically, but mentally. Do the things you hate early in the day. Make discomfort your breakfast. Whether it is a workout, a hard conversation, or a delayed task, attack it first. Not to suffer, but to train. To build resistance. To prove to yourself that emotion does not decide your direction, you do. And here is the truth: you will never feel like doing the hard things. That is not a flaw. That is biology. So, stop waiting for desire. Stop waiting for alignment. Move anyway. That is the mark of someone who is dangerous. Someone who is free. 8 minutes into this section, and if your old emotional patterns are screaming at you right now, that is good. That means the shift is happening. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who lets emotion control them. Let this be the mirror they need. You want to work hard? Then silence the voice that says, "Not today." Starve it. Replace it. Drown it with action. Because you are not here to feel better. You are here to become better. Chapter 5: Discipline is your identity. Most people treat discipline like a task, something you check off. I have it. A2 minus 2. But if that is all it is, then it will never last. Because tasks can be skipped. Habits can fade. But identity, that is permanent. When discipline becomes who you are, not just what you do, everything changes. You no longer negotiate with yourself. You no longer debate if you should do the work. You do it because that is what you do. Because that is who you are. You are not building habits. You are building a self-minus image. One decision at a time. Every time you choose action over comfort, you cast a vote for the version of yourself that shows up no matter what. And the more votes you cast, the more that identity hardens. Until the question is no longer, "Should I do this?" The shift happens when you stop seeing discipline as a sacrifice and start seeing it as self minus respect. When you realize that every excuse is a form of self minus betrayal. When skipping the workout, delaying the task, or sleeping in is not just a small act, it is a message. A message that your goals are optional. That your word is flexible. That your dreams are negotiable. And over time, that message becomes your identity. You want to force yourself to work hard? Then stop waiting for a perfect routine. Start defending your identity. Wake up and act like someone who is already who they want to become. Do the things that person would do. Think how they would think. Move how they would move. Not tomorrow. Now. Let me tell you about a man who used to be overweight, unmotivated, and constantly restarting. He tried every diet, every routine, but nothing stuck. Until one day, he made a new decision. He stopped trying to get in shape. He decided to become the kind of person who never missed a workout. Even if it was short. Even if it was terrible. He never missed. 3 years later, he did not just lose the weight. He lost the version of himself that kept quitting. Because he changed his identity and his actions followed. You are not lazy. You have just not made discipline part of who you are. Yet. But you can. Today. Not by waiting for massive transformation, but by stacking small wins. Wake up on time. Make your bed with precision. Eat with intention. Speak with focus. Move with urgency. Each act is a brick. Each day is a wall. Build. When people say, "I am not disciplined," they think it is a personality trait. It is not. It is a decision. A series of decisions. One made every hour of every day. And the more often you make it, the more it becomes natural. Effortless. Expected. Discipline is not about being robotic. It is about being reliable. For yourself. For your future. For the people who are counting on you whether they know it or not. And if this message wakes something in you, do not let it fade. Share it. Speak it. Let someone else remember that they are not stuck. They are simply one disciplined decision away from a different life. You want to become the kind of person who forces themselves to work hard. Then become the kind of person who no longer asks. You just move. You just execute. You just are. Chapter 6. Build the habit, not the hype. Motivation is noisy. It comes in waves. It arrives with fireworks, adrenaline, and grand promises. But like a storm, it passes. It dies. It leaves you where it found you, full of energy, but empty of consistency. That is why people start strong and fade fast. Because they built their foundation on hype, not habit. If you want to force yourself to work hard, stop chasing peak states. Build systems instead. Simple, repeatable, boring systems. Why boring? Because boring is sustainable. Excitement burns quickly. But habits, real habits, are slow fires. They burn beneath the surface. They keep you moving long after the hype is gone. Look around. The people who achieve the most are not the loudest. They are not the most intense. They are the most consistent. They do the same things at the same times, for the same reasons, regardless of how they feel. Their days are not dictated by emotion, but by design. I routine. I rhythm. A structure that eliminates decision minus making. Because every decision costs energy. Every debate drains willpower. But habits conserve it. You do not debate brushing your teeth. You just do it. That is the power of automation. When hard things become normal. When action becomes default. Start small. Anchor your habits to specific times and places. Write every morning before your phone. Train before the sun rises. Review your goals before sleep. Make the habit so obvious, so easy, so automated that skipping it feels unnatural. And then stack. One habit becomes 2. To become 5. Over time, you become a machine of momentum. You do not need more hype. You need more reps. More quiet days of showing up. More ordinary moments done with extraordinary consistency. That is where greatness is built. Not in peaks, but in persistence. Let me tell you about a man who ran every single day for 10 years. No matter the weather. No matter the mood. Some runs were slow. Some were painful. But he never stopped. Why? Because running was not what he did. It was who he was. It was not about the result. It was about the ritual. And that ritual built an identity. A standard. A legacy. You are building the same. Every repetition writes a line in your story. Every habit becomes a sentence. And the full page? That is your future. Make sure it is worth reading. Stop saying, I will do it when I feel like it. Replace that with, I do this because it is what I do. That mindset ends the debate. That mindset turns chaos into clarity. 8 minutes in, are you still waiting for the perfect time? This is it. Not tomorrow. Not when things feel easier. No. Share this message with someone who needs less noise and more structure. Let it guide them back to the basics. Because at the end of the day, you will not be remembered for what you said you would do. Only for what you did. Daily. Relentlessly. Silently. Chapter 7. Win on your worst day. Anyone can work hard on a good day. When the sun is shining, the schedule is clear, and the mood is right, execution feels easy. But life does not reward effort on your best days. Life rewards effort on your worst. The difference between winners and everyone else. They show up when it is hard. They win when it is dark. They execute when everything screams not today. You will not always feel like a warrior. You will not always feel ready, sharp, or strong. But none of that matters. Because the world does not pause for your feelings. The deadline does not move. The work does not shrink. Your responsibilities remain whether you rise or not. That is why you must train for bad days. You must practice moving through fog. Working while tired. Thinking while distracted. Creating while uninspired. Because the ability to perform under pressure, under stress, under resistance, that is true power. There will be mornings where everything feels heavier. Where the weight of life presses harder than usual. Where your mind says, just skip today. You deserve a break, and maybe you do. But if you listen, you lose something greater: momentum. Integrity. Identity. Every time you act on weakness, you reinforce it. But every time you act despite weakness, you transcend it. What does it mean to win on your worst day? It means doing something even if it is not perfect. Showing up even at 40%. Because 40% effort is infinitely better than zero. It is about keeping the chain alive. Not because you feel amazing, but because your future depends on consistency. Let me tell you about a woman who built a business while battling depression. Some days, she could barely get out of bed. But she made one rule: do one thing every day, no matter how small. Answer one email. Post one idea. Make one call. That was it. And over months, those small efforts compounded. She did not just build a business. She built resilience, strength, a reputation of reliability. Not in her best moments, but in her worst. That is what makes you different. Not talent, not speed, but toughness. The kind that does not crack under emotional storms. The kind that keeps moving when every voice inside says stop. You want to force yourself to work hard? Then learn to work with the storm, not against it. Let the chaos swirl. Let the mind scream. But do the work anyway. Like a pilot flying blind, you rely on your training, your systems, your discipline. Because discipline is not about how you feel, it is about what you do. Especially when you feel nothing. 8 minutes and undiff today is one of those hard days. Then this is your moment. Not to give up. Not to collapse. But to prove who you are when no one would blame you for quitting. Share this with someone in the storm. Let them know it is still possible to move forward. Because in the end, greatness is not measured by your best days. It is defined by how you show up on your worst. Chapter 8: Focus is your superpower. In a world built to distract you, the rarest ability is focus. Not intelligence. Not talent. Not even creativity. Focus. The ability to lock into one task, one thought, one mission while the rest of the world spins, screams, and pulls at your attention. That is what separates the ones who try from the ones who win. Distraction is not accidental. It is engineered. Every ping, every scroll, every piece of endless content, it is designed to fracture your mind. And if you are not intentional, it will. Not suddenly, but slowly. Like water carving stone. One swipe, one click, one interruption at a time. Until you forget what deep work even feels like. Until 5 minutes of focus feels like a marathon. You want to force yourself to work hard. Then protect your attention like your life depends on it, because it does. Your future is built with it. Your goals require it. Your greatness demands it. Eliminate what weakens it. Put your phone in another room. Block the sights. Turn off the noise. Create space where your mind can dive deep. Not for 5 minutes. For hours. Because that is where real work happens. Not in chaos, but in silence. There is a mental state called flow when time disappears, when effort feels effortless, when everything else fades. You do not get there by accident. You get there through ritual. Through environment. Through repeated entrance. But first, you must fight through the noise. At first, focus will feel hard. Your mind will twitch, crave novelty. But that is not a sign of failure. That is withdrawal. Your attention has been hijacked for years. This is the detox. Stay with it. Train your focus like a muscle. Start with 20 minutes. Then 40. Then 90. Watch what happens. Let me tell you about a coder. He works into -R blocks, in silence, with no notifications, no tabs. For 2 hours, he enters a tunnel. When he exits, he has done more than most people do in an entire day. Why? Because focus compounds. Deep work multiplies your output. It turns hours into breakthroughs. You do not need more time. You need more focus. And focus is not something you find. It is something you fight for. This is your edge. While others drown in dopamine, you stay sharp. While others jump between tasks, you dive into one. While others react, you create. That is power. That is control. That is how you move faster with less effort over time. 8 minutes in, if this message is breaking your pattern, good. Let it. Share it with someone addicted to the noise. Let them remember that their best work still lives in silence. Because the ability to focus is not just a skill. It is a superpower. And in a distracted world, it makes you unstoppable. Chapter 9: Momentum over Everything. There is a silent force more powerful than motivation, more enduring than passion, more valuable than talent. That force is momentum. The quiet energy that builds when you move, again and again, in the same direction. It starts small. A spark. A step. An unfinished sentence. But if you keep going, it becomes something massive, something that cannot be stopped. Momentum does not begin with greatness. It begins with movement. The tiniest action done repeatedly creates a shift. A groove. A rhythm. And once that rhythm takes hold, it becomes harder to stop than to continue. That is the secret of the high performers. They are not always inspired. They are not always certain. But they are always in motion. You want to force yourself to work hard? Then forget about giant leaps. Focus on the next inch. Because every inch compounds. Every rep adds. Every early morning, every late night, every session where you showed up tired, it all stacks. And before you know it, the hard part is not starting. It is stopping. People often say they have lost motivation. But what they have really lost is momentum. And the way back is not through thinking. It is through action. Immediate. Imperfect. Relentless. You do not need a perfect plan to move forward. You need a reason. I push. A non-negotiable standard that says, I do not stop. Let me tell you about a man who started a podcast with no audience. No budget. Just his voice and a cheap mic. He recorded every morning, even when no one listened. Week after week. Month after month. Eventually, he found his rhythm. People noticed. The audience grew. But none of that would have happened without momentum. Not quality. Not branding. Just momentum. The first steps are always the hardest, not because they are complicated, but because they are heavy. Resistance is strongest at the beginning. That is why you must lower the bar. Make the first move so small, so easy, that you cannot say no. Write one sentence. Do one push-up. Open the book. Turn off the phone. Once you are in motion, the work becomes lighter. Not because the task has changed, but because you have. Momentum is what transforms effort into ease. It is what makes discipline feel like instinct. But it only exists if you keep moving. The moment you stop, the weight returns. The hesitation creeps in. The resistance begins again. That is why your rule must be this: never miss twice. Life will hit you. Schedules will break. Motivation will vanish. But you do not disappear. You come back. Immediately. No guilt. No drama. Just return. Just rebuild. Just move. 8 minutes and let this message break the inertia. Let it be the spark that restarts the machine. Share it with someone who has paused too long. Someone who forgot how to begin. Because once you start and keep starting, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can stop you. Chapter 10: Mastery and Silence. There is a phase of growth that no one claps for. No one sees it. No one cares. It is quiet, unnoticed, and often misunderstood. That phase is silence. The period where you are doing the work but getting no results. Where you show up day after day, grind in private, and wonder if it is even working. But make no mistake, that silence is sacred. It is where the real transformation happens. Most people cannot stay in that silence. They crave feedback. They want applause. They need confirmation. But those who truly rise, they train without witnesses. They practice in the dark. They sharpen their edge in isolation. Because they understand that mastery does not happen in noise. It happens in silence. When no one is watching. When no one is impressed. When no one even knows your name. You want to force yourself to work hard? Then stop waiting for someone to notice. Stop measuring your progress by how others react. Begin to love the invisible grind. The long mornings. The quiet evenings. The lonely repetitions. That is your cocoon. That is where the old you dies and the new you begins to emerge. In silence, there is clarity. You are not performing. You are building. You are not chasing likes. You are chasing standards. You are not trying to prove anything. You are trying to become something. That shift is everything. Let me tell you about a young woman who wanted to become a speaker. She practiced her talks in her bedroom every morning for a year. No stage. No audience. Just her voice and the wall. At times it felt pointless. But when the opportunity came, when she finally stood on stage, she was ready. Not because she was talented, but because she had trained in silence. She had earned her voice through discipline, not through praise. That is what you are doing now. Every time you show up without reward, you sharpen your mind. Every time you move without recognition, you fortify your will. Every time you work while the world sleeps, you gain a step. You are building invisible advantages, layers of resilience, patterns of action, standards of excellence. And one day, that silence will erupt. Not with noise, but with power. Quiet confidence. Controlled dominance. The kind that cannot be faked, because it was forged in the dark. But most people quit in the silence. They think it means failure. They think nothing is working. But that is the test. That is the furnace. And if you stay long enough, something shifts. The silence becomes your sanctuary. The solitude becomes your weapon. 8 minutes in, and if you have been grinding quietly, wondering if it is worth it, this is your answer. Yes, it is. Share this with someone working in the dark. Let them know they are not alone. Let them know the silence is part of the plan. Because when the noise fades, and the applause stops, and the spotlight turns away, the ones who trained in silence will still be moving. Still be building. Still be rising. Chapter 11. You are what you do next. The greatest illusion is that change is far away. That transformation takes years. That discipline is reserved for the few. But the truth is far simpler and far more terrifying. You become the person you act like today. Not tomorrow. Not someday. No. One decision, repeated, becomes a pattern. A pattern becomes a habit. A habit becomes your identity. And that identity, that is what shapes your future. Every second you are casting votes for the person you want to become. You cast them with your actions. Not with your thoughts. Not with your intentions. With your execution. That is why the question is never can I do this, but will I do it now? You want to force yourself to work hard. Then start by doing the work today. This hour. This minute. Shut off the voice that needs a perfect moment. That moment will never arrive. The only moment you ever truly own is the one right in front of you. Take it. Own it. Dominate it. Let me leave you with this: the strongest people you admire, the disciplined machines who seem unstoppable, they were not born that way. They did not feel like it most days. They did not wait for permission. They simply acted. Over and over. And that repetition carved something into their bones. Not a motivation. A code. A truth. That action done repeatedly beats talent. That work, done in silence, creates legacy. If you take nothing else from this audiobook, take this: you do not need to feel ready. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to move. To build. To choose discipline over comfort again and again until it becomes natural. Until it becomes who you are. Because you are not what you think. You are not what you feel. You are what you do. And every action is a seed. What you plant today becomes the forest you walk through tomorrow. So move. Even if your hands shake. Even if your mind resists. Move anyway. That one act, that first push, might be the one that changes everything. 8 minutes in, if you have come this far, then you are no longer like the rest. You are not waiting. You are no longer stuck. You are becoming. Share this message with someone who is ready to change. Let it become their spark. Because when this audiobook ends, your real work begins. Not in theory. Not in your head. But in motion. In sweat. In silence. In one more rep. One more hour. One more day of doing the hard thing when no one is watching. This is your life. And now you know exactly how to build it. Let us end where it all began, not with inspiration, but with decision. Work hard. Not because it feels good. Work hard. Because that is who you are.